and welcome to episode 83 of the Falls on a Hill podcast, where we bring you the latest news and our expert opinion on the newest releases in the world of music. I'm Cal, and I'm joined by Yanni and Liam, as always. Howdy,
Hola.
partners. Hola.
Howdy, partner.
We good?
Little bit hungover from Saturday night.
What happened on Saturday night?
Sister came down from Manchester. Me here and Molds had to go to a little pub. Well, yeah, pubby place near Baltic Market. A bar, I think, is probably the better way to put it. Actually, not a pub. It's a
Pubby
bar.
place, yeah.
Because there was some guy. I'll show him out because he was good. Called Samwise. Was doing his last ever performance at that place.
Ganji, Samwise Ganji.
Samwise Ganji, yeah. And
No more.
yeah, it was good. We had, well, me and Faye obviously had a lot of drinks, but Mol didn't. And his performance was great. He did like the whole Ed Sheeran shebang of looping himself, but you know, it wasn't Ed Sheeran type music. It was decent music that he performed.
As in hip hop.
There was some hip hop.
Okay. EDM.
He did forgot about Dre, minus the words he shouldn't say as a white man.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know how much you drank, given that you still feel hungover from Saturday night.
Well, we had 2 pictures of like cocktails, obviously, but it was mainly me drinking it, just because I was finding the experience that the table we were at, the seats were too far back. You probably sat somewhere like that before.
From the
where,
table.
like, there's not a.
You're a bit.
You can't. You either have to sit up like this.
Yeah.
With your legs completely straight, or you sort of recline, and it's a little bit too much of a recline that you've got going on.
Right.
So that was awkward, and then it was just a very like open space out because I was the last one in that like row. So I was just drinking because I found it awkward, and I had most of those pictures to myself, to be honest with you. Had a couple of shots, and then came home, stayed up till about 5, just listening to records and watching performances of music on YouTube.
5
and
o'clock?
non-stop drinking. Me and Faye finished off a bottle of like old Moe that I had from like a job years ago that I was given, because I would never drink it by myself, but we got home and I had that, and then I finished off the last bits of Serrano. So I had quite a lot to drink. Sunday was not a great day for me. I was very delicate.
I did wonder. I don't think we heard from you at all yesterday. I did
No,
notice
I
there
don't
was
think we
a
did.
complete lack of messages from Yanni.
Yeah.
If I remember.
I mean, you're lucky I'm here today.
You look sprightly, mate.
So yeah, I'm feeling it a bit, but yeah, it was worth it at the time, not after the fact.
Well,
That's good. That's what I'd like
that is
to hear.
good. Anything of note from you, Liam?
No, I stayed in all weekend.
Yeah, same. I went to watch Everton, but we lost, so we'll move.
I
Today,
watched. I will tell you that I watched about half of Hocus Pocus 2, and it's shit.
As is Blonde, by the way. I started watching that. I told you, Liam, just a load of shit. So boring. So boring.
well,
There we go.
there is so little to tell you, people. I'm sorry, Cal, but I want to move this along. And
I was trying to. When Liam cut across me, I was trying to move it along as well.
So there's not really much to talk about. There's no news. There probably is singles, but nothing that we want to talk about. Nothing worth mentioning. So we've got a trifecta of album spotlights to talk about. Some of the reviews are going to be a bit shoddy in places, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So there is one place that we must go. Isn't that right, boys?
That is correct.
It's the album spotlight.
Why is the sun so persistent?
Persistent Sun.
Fucking hell.
We're here. The first of the albums we're going to be talking about this week is Blue Rev by the band Alvvays. You've heard us talk about a couple of their singles before this album's been released.
Oh, you did it now as well.
Out loud. Copyright strike ready to go.
I was thinking about the right output. Sorry.
Giving away your secrets there, Liam.
Yeah. So track by track, that's what we do. That's how you're going to hear it. First one is the one that Liam played for us out loud. Thank you, Liam. Is the song "Pharmacist." As is probably apparent from the times we've talked about this previously, this is one of my favourite songs of the year. I love this one. Since it came out, I've listened to it non-stop. Yeah, so great way to open the album for me, personally.
I completely agree. I think this is everything that I've loved about Always from album 1 and album 2, put together and delivered in the best way they've done it so far. The guitar tone's lovely, vocals are even better. Long live shoegaze.
Dare I say what I think?
Well, that's the aim of this.
I think this is a good starter in terms of the melody. I like the way it kind of kicks in. But I just don't love it as a song, really. It reminds me, in terms of the kind of main melody and style of something like Beaver Doobie or something. I feel like that kind of main vocal melody reminds me of that. And then it just feels like in terms of the music, there's too many melodies going on that it just doesn't. The two don't marry up very well in my head, and I just don't particularly enjoy it. But I think it's an alright song. Like, I don't think it's the worst thing, but
Definitely not the worst thing. Definitely not the worst.
definitely not the worst thing. I did
Um,
mention Beaver Doobie there, so we can just go there to see something slightly worse.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, we have "Easy on Your Own," another one of the singles. I think the second single to be released. I love this song also, and I think the middle eight part of this is great. A couple of times where I feel like I've mentioned that upon listening to the album, but this one, the first ones where it hit me. Yeah, I like this one. I always seem to have the lyrics stuck in my head, so I must like it.
Yeah, I agree. I just think the start of it is great. I really like the melody, and this is going to become a common theme from my review. But I just think Molly, the lead singer, just sounds brilliant. It's definitely the best she sounded on any Always record so far by quite some distance. And that's a common theme.
Yeah, the vocals do sound good. I'll concede to that point. This one again, I had the same issue with the kind of music, the instrumentation, the melodies, just doing too much for me. Nothing kind of sounds great in my ears. This song, but I do like the overall song arc and the melody and all the rest of it. But just to nitpick something, that's what I would say. I think it doesn't help that this isn't necessarily my style of music.
You're joking.
Well, but I can definitely see the value in this track and the first track. But yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Liam.
me.
Moving on to one that we haven't heard in advance. It's After the Earthquake. This one really surprised me because of the tones on the guitars. A bit more of what I mean, I've only heard a couple of the older stuff, but this sounds very much like what I'd imagine this band to sound like, or Dream Poppy, this one. And there's a chorus on guitar, so you're going to struggle to make me hate it at that point. And I really like the drastic change up in the middle eight part of this, where it becomes really soft. And then kicks back in towards the end. Yeah, definitely a standout album track for me. This
Couldn't agree more, mate. I think
Beautiful.
the riff that drives the song is very strong. Again, I love the melody and the overlapping vocals that came in. Really added another layer to the track. I do believe that it is another slapper.
It definitely perked up for me a little bit at this point. I wouldn't say what perked up, but it perked up after the first two tracks. And yeah, I got this a bit more. I enjoyed the song quite a bit more than the first two, for sure. I definitely
Beautiful.
lost that feeling of too many melodies.
that's positive.
Yeah, that's positive.
Moving on, we've got Tom Verlaine. Or is that? Would you pronounce that differently, Liam?
Verlaine? No, I don't know.
Verlaine.
Verlaine, yeah, I'd say Verlaine. Making out like a pedant.
You are. Whatever that means. this song could have been just what was going on the time I was listening to it. This one sort of passed me by a bit, to be honest. It's got very much that shoegaze, like My Buddy Valentine style, the guitar, the sort of wow sound that you hear. I'm not going to replicate that again. But yeah, just there was nothing in particular about it that stood out to me, unfortunately, on this one.
Yeah, I get that. I liked at the time. I liked that it was more understated, and I felt like it was kind of needed at this point in the album. But I agree, it did kind of just wash over me, and I can't remember anything about it now, other than my one line of notes. But I thought it worked well at the time, apparently. But who knows?
I definitely thought it was pleasant to listen to, but it didn't really stand out to me in any way. And I think it would have been better placed probably a little bit later. I actually think it comes a bit early for such a kind of more understated song. But yeah, again, pleasant. I've kind of got nothing negative to say about it.
Okay. Yeah. Moving on, we've got Pressed, which, to your point there about the previous track being further down the list, I feel like this would have worked very well after the earthquake. The guitar tones are similar in ways, but not. It wouldn't have sounded too repetitive if they're next to each other. Although I've not really got much more to add about this track, so maybe if it was after the earthquake, it would have just got even more lost with me, because it's really not that much of a standout for me. So who knows?
The mirror has been shattered, Yanni, because I believe this is one of my favorite album tracks.
Well, don't worry. There's many mirrors.
Many mirrors. Well done.
It's coming up.
Not this one though. This one is Pressed. And I thought the guitars sounded quite Smithsy in this one.
Very Smiths.
And I just vocals just sound great. That is just they're good. They're very good. They keep me interested.
That was 100% one of my points. I don't know why I had to specify that it was 100%.
You stole it from him. I believe you can.
Word for word.
I straight away thought it sounded like Johnny Marr guitar, and then even the vocals in some places sounded a bit Morrissey, like the vocal lines sounded like some of the stuff, that kind of stuff. And yeah, I like it, but again, this was the first album I listened to this morning, so it's actually got probably the most attention, and this passed me by. Might as well say for most of the album, it just doesn't really stand out to me. That's probably the biggest issue. But I did enjoy this one. I like the sound of the guitars and stuff. It's not something I don't think I'd ever go back to.
Okay, moving on. The aforementioned Many Mirrors is the name of the next track. I like this, and I've just put it on the background while Liam's been muttering away, because I hate the sound of his voice. And
We all do.
reminded of, I do actually like this quite a lot. It's a more of an understated one, I'd probably say, but very much something that I can imagine being released in like the 90s, which is sort of the kind of style that obviously this is trying to emulate, with the shoegazy elements and stuff, and the girl rock, which sounds really demeaning, style that they're going for, like
Girl rock.
It just, I don't know what the word, like the Beaver Doobie
Pink
kind
rock?
of,
Sparkly,
the
glittery
cardigans and shit like that. I know this doesn't sound like cardigans, but you know what I mean, that kind of like 90s girl fronted rock group.
Okay.
There's probably a better word, and I've just made it even worse by girl rock, and then you putting it out that I then said that as well. Thanks, Liam, for that. So yeah, I like Many Mirrors. I like them a lot. I'm very vain.
Yeah, I like this track as well, but this was the first point in the album where I started to realize how similar everything kind of sounds up to this point, and I kind of struggled to shake that idea afterwards, which was a bit sad. Definitely don't dislike it, but I'm just craving something different at this point. But the vocals going back into the last chorus were tip top. The melody, the delivery, just everything about it. Very good.
Many mirrors regarding your point of just getting a bit too much of it at this point. Yeah, again, I feel like I've got not much to say just because this isn't my style of music, and I don't know how to describe kind of how I feel about it, as because it all just does kind of sound the same, but I don't dislike it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I really, again, I quite like this song, but like,
I mean, like,
almost there's nothing else behind that.
as much as I like shoegaze, probably not to the extent that Cal loves shoegaze, but I do very much enjoy it. It's never. I don't feel like there's ever like a massive standout moment for me in terms of the shoegaze genre. It's always like I will just like it a lot, but there's never like a I don't know, something magnificent that I can always sort of refer back to. It's just it gives me a feeling that I just is very pleasant.
Yeah, it's the tummy feeling that I always say shoegaze gives.
Moving on, very online guy. This is one that we talked about last week. Was it?
A few weeks ago.
Last week. And I mentioned how weird this is. The vocals. I like this. I like how different it is, vocally as well. Is what I mean by that. And yeah, still, my thoughts sort of mirror what I said about it previously. It's an enjoyable track. I feel like it's needed at this point. It's just a weird vocal one.
Yeah, I agree. I think sonically it doesn't really differ to anything else, but obviously vocally it does. I like the premise of the track more than the result of the track. I think it's a clever idea, but it just annoys me ever so slightly, which is a shame.
I mean, this one stands out to me just as you said, because you guys have said it's different. And I like the style of it. It reminds me a bit of La Femme. Brought out an album last year or the year before, whenever the fuck that was.
We covered it,
but did we? Yeah, yeah.
Well, I definitely listened to it.
Except this isn't French, so it's slightly different to La Femme. But what was I going to say? I really like all the vocal effects on this. All the kind of like stuff. Sounds exactly like that. But even as a standout track, I still don't have a lot more to say about it.
Okay, moving on. We've got Velveteen. I feel like that's the best way of saying that.
That's because that's the
right
correct way of saying it.
Yeah,
Spot on.
Exactly. This one, I feel like we're gonna have. Well, I can gauge pretty much what Liam's gonna say about this one already. I like this one a lot, but I appreciate it. It isn't really stand out apart from the very end with her vocals that she has, the vocal run, and then the synths which are very 80s-esque. Yeah, but it's I like it, but I can appreciate it's not the most exciting one going.
This is one of my favorites from the album tracks, and I think it's because, while not being like exclusively shoegazy, it gives me that feeling that shoegaze gives me. This is incredibly emotionally driven. It's a bit like this album's "Forget About Life" from their last album. It just gives me, it just makes me emotional. And yeah, Molly's voice again is tip top. Every time I say it, it gets better than it was, which is impressive.
I actually really like this song. To be honest, this actually was one of the standouts of this
What?
album. I like the vibe of
not
this song. I think it's
expect
very
that.
pleasant. I think part of it is like the drums and synth remind me of like War on Drugs kind of stuff. And that kind of just that rhythm is good, and I don't think it does too much to kind of doesn't overdo it, doesn't really kind of try and make it anything special. It's just a pleasant song. Again, like I wouldn't say I'm ever going to go back to it or anything like that, but in terms of this album, I did very much enjoy this song.
Interesting. That really took me by surprise.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh my god. Next up we have Tile by Tile. I feel like the only thing that lets this down is the fact that it's right after Velveteen. Because I like it. I like how chilled it is. But it's sort of getting to the point now where there's a couple of songs that are a bit more like this, and this one doesn't do a lot to stand out. but I don't hate this one.
Yeah, I don't hate any of them, but I did not make a single note on this track. And I actively tried to numerous times. But every time I listened to the record, it just passed me by, which is all the notes you need.
I think that's fair. I did like this one listening through to it, and just because it was slightly different, a bit more understated again. And I like the sounds, but again, it just doesn't do enough as a song to kind of keep me very excited.
Next up, we have Pomeranian Spinster. I didn't like this. Didn't like this one.
Me neither. Definitely the weakest on the album.
I feel like it tried to go down the more like punkier route with it in terms of what was being played, but this one really took me out of it compared to everything else. That was like a sharp bend.
Yeah, I agree. This was the first time that I've been disappointed by a track. A lot of them have kind of just been okay, but I was actively disappointed with this one. I just don't really think it did anything of note, to be honest.
I enjoyed this song.
Yeah,
which I reckon is probably quite obvious that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. For the thing is, I don't think it's like the best song in the world. I think if it was an album full of, if this was actually their style of music, it would be one of the weaker songs on the album. But because it's in this kind of like, it's a red and a sea of blues, isn't it? Sorry, Yanni, that's a bad example. But it stands out. It stands out. Is what I'm saying. It's the tallest tree. That doesn't mean it's better necessarily. It does if it's a tree. Again, that's a bad example. But you know what I'm trying to say. Kind of strokesy style, guitar sounds, which I kind of liked. And I know just a bit more to it, but it doesn't go deeper than that.
Next up, this is the last single. Belinda Says. We talked about this previously. My mind has changed on this song. It's grown on me quite a bit. The bridge is good, and the key change I feel like really elevates the track and makes it stand out compared to the other songs which are of this similar style. And the vocals at the end are great. That's the first time I'm gonna. Well, no, one of the times I've said that as opposed to Callum saying that. But I thought the vocals were towards the end of this song were very, very good. So yeah, definitely a grower. This one, but like me,
all the best ones are Yanni. Yeah. In the words of Justin Timberlake, whoa.
Perfect.
I kind of checked out at this point a little bit, but I did one thing to say about this is I really enjoyed the solo at the end. Just a little solo. I really like the sound like guitar. It was very Pompoko sounding guitar. Look at me with all these references to other artists. I'm just so kind of hip and trendy.
So
that's how you listen to music.
Wow, incredible.
Moving on, Bored in Bristol. Bored listening to this track.
Bored in KB.
Yeah. I like the main riff, but apart from that, it doesn't really offer much, in my opinion.
Yep. I was starting to check out at this point. So my notes for the two after this and this one don't really amount to much. It was decent, but that was about it.
Yeah. I think I said before I was bored as well listening to this. I've checked out at this point completely. So like
of the review as well.
I can just say the same thing I've said for the rest of the album, which is that it sounds alright, but that's it.
Yep. Second to last, lottery noises, or lottery noises, if you don't want to be as common as what I just was. Starts off lottery. Starts off promising, but then overstays its welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Bit like this album.
Oh, just yeah. I honestly couldn't agree more.
I definitely think I know I didn't really say much about Bored in Bristol, but that was actually the point I think where I was like, this is like the end of the album. This album should have been 12 songs long. I'm at this point now where there's no need for any more after this. Not talking about the quality of the songs individually, but as a kind of full piece, that's where it should have ended.
Considering it's a 38-minute album, it feels long.
It's fucking long.
Yeah,
It
that's the
feels,
problem with having songs that sound very similar.
Mm.
I did like the second half of Lottery Noises, when I was kind of picked up a little bit and there's a lot more going on. But and I also think I didn't make a note of this, but this should have ended the album. But I can't remember what Four Figures like, to be honest. So
Before
Well,
we move on, Liam,
okay.
can you give me your best lottery noise?
what noise does a lottery make? That was so.
It's up to interpretation. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Moving on.
So
The
hard.
final track. Come
I
on,
was
boys.
thinking of doing like the sound of balls rattling around, but
Go on then, do that. Get some balls rattling around your mouth, mate. Make that happen.
I can't do that. I don't know.
44.
He's just beatboxing at this point, isn't
Yeah.
he?
Super fast.
Final track, Fourth Figure, comes in at a whopping 1 minute 20. A nice closer, I feel like, but it's just nothing fantastic. I feel like I could have had this be the end and then just been off board in Bristol and Lottery Noises, and I feel like that would have been all right for me. But yeah, it's nothing grand, is it? It's not like a statement piece, but I feel like it does it's a nice one to close on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It does its job, but I don't know. Could have done without it, really. I suppose.
Yeah, I think that.
Jesus
like I said before,
Christ!
Sorry, there's a delay. You
There's
better
a
just account for the
delay.
delay a little bit. To me, that was a 1 second break between Callum speaking and me speaking. So,
To
if that-
me, I could have gone to the shops and back. Okay, now
He could have put water in his tea by the time you responded. Then
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, guys. I don't know what the issue is. There always is some sort of delay. It's not my fault.
always
Yeah,
your
like I
fault.
said before, I think Lottery Noises should have finished this album. I think Four Figure could have gone before Lottery Noises, and that might have been effective. But as the last song, like, it's nice and fine, and that's it, really.
It's nice and fine. We must now rate. Callum.
overall, I like the album. There wasn't really anything I disliked. Pomeranian Spinster was as close to dislike as I got. But there was too much of the same thing, and it was too long, which caused me to lose interest. So I'm going to give it a 7, which I think is still a little bit generous. But it had potential to be
Mr.
better.
Dogberry.
I was actually going to give it. I've lowered my score slightly. I'll be honest. I have lowered it based on a number of factors. I'm going to give it a 6. Now, all right, come on. I was going to give it a 7 because, despite everything I've said, I appreciate this as a solid album. But listening back, I don't think it's quite as solid. Fucking hell, as solid as I originally thought. So I'm giving it a 6.
Okay. Well, Carl, I'm going to go with your score here, and I'm also going to give it a 7. Although it is pretty samey and does go on slightly too long, the songs that I find myself enjoying, I will be revisiting multiple times.
Yeah.
So that's been the Always album review of Blue Rev. Hope you liked it. We must move on. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about that. The band is called Sorry. That's the joke there.
Now,
and
boys, can we just agree to not say there's no need to apologise for this whole review?
You've got no guarantees from me, I'm afraid.
Why would we say that, Carl?
You think you're funny?
No, why would? Yeah, but I don't understand why we would say that as a joke.
What's the joke?
Oh, fuck off.
What was the joke?
Just go away.
Why would we just say
Why
I need
is
to
it-
apologise?
Honestly,
randomly?
why
go
would-
away.
Why would?
I'm not
you're-
saying it.
We'd only say
I
that
know what
if
you
you
want me to say.
apologise, but what
The
were you
bands
apologising
were
for?
previously called Fish, I think. Were they?
Yeah, Fish. But who were known as Fish?
This band that we are about to cover, who
They're
have just
called-
released
what
an
they
album
called?
called Anywhere But Here. The first song is Let the Lights On.
Uh,
Whose album's this?
The band's called fucking Sorry.
No need to
No need to
apologise.
apologise.
Cunts.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, that is the
Yeah.
first song that the lights
God.
on.
Worn out now.
This track reminded me of how much I love her voice.
Well, my enjoyment of her voice lasted about 4 songs. So
Oh.
interesting.
Callum.
But this track I really liked. The verses I thought were cool. Chorus was good. I really like the backing vocals.
The chorus is fucking great, mate.
Well, yeah, it was fucking great then. Sorry.
Fuck you, Callum. God damn it.
It's a very, very solid opener, and I did like her voice on this track.
I really very much enjoy this song. I think it's probably my favorite song on the album. Might as well just throw that out now, nice and early. I think it's a very solid track, and I really like I like the very manic kind of, not manic, but very fast-paced drums. It doesn't seem to fit, and then there's very loud piano chords being played, and just every little element is very nice, and the vocals are great.
Moving on with the song, I've really struggled to speak there. Christ. Moving on to the song "Tell Me," I'm going to tell you. I thought this song was a mess.
Tell me.
I have.
Is that you done?
Yeah, it just seemed really messy, and there's a couple of points on this album. Feels like you wanted me to expand, so I'm just going to pull some out of my arse here.
Yeah, totally. Good, yeah.
There's a couple of points on this album where I feel like, although the ideas are good, the execution it's not there, and sometimes the messiness adds to it, and it works very well, especially with that kind of style they go for. But a lot of points on this album, I don't feel like that works, and it feels like they've not spent that much time on trying to complete something. This was one of those first times that feeling hit me. It's all right.
Yeah. I did like the track a bit more as it went on, and I liked their vocals together. And I enjoyed the creepy vocals in the background. But yeah, no, I completely agree. That is a theme I've experienced throughout this record as well. It's just, it's raw to the point that it annoys me because it could be good, but sometimes it just ain't.
This to me reminds me, or kind of fits the same part of my brain as like "Ode to Boy" from the first album, which is the second to last song. And I think that's exactly what the issue is with this song. Is why is it the second song on the album? It does not belong this high up on this album at all. It should be right near the bottom, closer maybe, and I think that then works with the messiness. That works with the
that's
rawness.
the fun, mate.
He's on it. He knows the track list like the back of his hand.
Insane.
That's new.
But that's how I feel.
That was a little robots joke.
Sorry?
No.
Remember that film? That robots film?
Yeah, Robots Ron Williams, yeah. What was the joke?
I know this place like the back of my hand, and he looks at
Oh,
it
yeah.
and goes, "That's new."
Yeah. That's a great joke. I forgot about
You
that
done, mate.
joke. It's a very good joke. What was I going to say? Yeah, I don't know. I like
Tell me.
I like the mix of the vocals. I like the kind of the sound of the guitars in the second half. But yeah, I just don't think it should be here in the album at all. I think that's definitely the biggest issue with me on this one. All right.
Thanks, Dean. You didn't have to be so honest, but I appreciate the fact you
That's who I
were.
am.
Moving on, Key to the City. What have I put? I've put this is a cool song, and then not expanded on that. So thank you, past Yanni, for that.
Past Callum said, "Good track, goes on a little bit."
Current Liam says, I really like the sounds of this song a lot. I think it's a cool song. I agree with that, Yanni. I find it a little bit annoying now. Just because it doesn't really do much with the things it's doing vocally and stuff, and bums me out a little bit. But I still think it's a pretty cool track at the same time.
Thanks, Liam. Next up, we have Willow Tree. I think the bass line in this, I'm going to try and stop saying and I'm going to really struggle. You'll see me properly focus trying to not do that.
Go on.
But, yeah, very much like the bass line. And the middle eight was interesting. There was some kind of like wind instrument that was playing that sounded cool and different. really made it stand
Mm.
out. But it seemed like a bit of a weird track just to have on this album in retrospect.
Yeah, I thought this one was a little bit boring. I did like it, but it didn't stand out whatsoever.
I like this track. I like all the sounds. I think they've done a really good job on this album of creating a very interesting variety. I was gonna say soundscape, but I don't think that's true. Variety of sounds. Now, I don't think they do the soundscape very well. That's the issue with this album. But I do like the variety of sounds on this track. Some of the guitar reminds me of like quite pavementy, like what's the song of Crooked Rain? Newark Wilder. That's the song. It's quite different on that track, on that album. It reminds me of that. And I like that.
He really likes it. There's so many people that want to be loved. I think this was the first single off
Yeah.
this album. Is that right? Yeah. And we did cover this at the time it was released. I still like this. One of my favourites off this album. A very well done track.
Yep. This is one of my more favoured ones. But again, it's just not really like resonating with me too much. And again, I think it's coming back to the fact that it's just a bit too raw and a bit too underdone. That's just a synonym for raw, really, isn't it?
It is.
Same
yeah.
point made twice. There you go.
Falls in the Hill.
Falls on Hill. Yeah, I think this one is is a key point of is what's what I'm trying to say. One of the key
Go.
players in my thought of this album, which is the first album. It felt like they were trying to prove themselves, and they were throwing everything, and they were doing a lot of interesting stuff, different stuff, but putting a lot of kind of like power and effort behind it, and that really worked for me on that first album. As some may know, it was my favorite album of 2020. Whereas this album, it feels like they maybe just got a little bit comfortable with that and weren't trying as much, and therefore doesn't feel as kind of well crafted or considered. And they're just kind of resting on the fact that they are clearly very kind of creative instrumentally and very good at phrasing and things like that with some of their guitar parts and bits and bobs here and there. And I forgot which song we're talking about now, but this is my album review I've kind of moved into.
Oh, okay.
But there's so many people want to be loved. That was the song we were talking about. And yeah, this is
Yeah.
one that kind of makes that clear because I think it's a very good song, but it's just missing something.
That was very much a I'm not angry, I'm disappointed kind of talk you've just had with the band
Spot on.
there.
Too
Moving
bad.
on, I Miss the Fool.
That's
I
what I
never
said
miss-
when Liam moved to Australia for 3 weeks.
How long have you been waiting for me to
All day.
announce it?
All day.
I said it. I said the thing I said I wouldn't say. This song is meh. I can't remember this at all. This was a disappointment.
Yes, I wrote see above. So just go back a minute and a half and listen to what I said about there's so many people that want to be loved, and my points apply. I did not really like this track. Although I like the
Yeah, I
last
think
one,
it's a
so
song.
that was a pointless comment, really.
God, you're so stupid, Colin. This song, yeah, it didn't really do anything for me. Again, I might as well stop saying this now, but I love the sounds. Like the bass sounds good in this song and stuff, and just think they've got a really good. Each instrument is individually crafted very well. It just doesn't do much together, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
man.
yeah, as a song, it's a bit lackluster.
Moving on to the song Step. Pretty much the same kind of response as I Miss the Fool that I'm going to give you, so I'm not going to say anything more than that. Didn't do much.
I like this one more than quite a lot of the ones on the record, really. The additional instrumentation made it more interesting. But again, I'm probably never ever going to put it on. Ever.
Yeah, it's not like when I think back to the first album, most of the songs I'd put on just individually, and there aren't any that I'd skip past. Whereas like I would just skip past the song. It's not. And the same with I Miss the Fool. I do think Step's slightly a bit more interesting than I Missed the Fool, but still, it's in the same. I agree with Yanni. It's just the same, really.
Yeah, moving on closer. This one brought it back for me a little bit. I feel like it maybe dragged a little bit to get to the really strong ending that it had. However, as soon as it sort of kicked in, it sort of took away from that. I forgave it, and one of the favoured album tracks,
Hmm.
I'd probably say.
I agree.
Everything, the guitar and the melodies, was very nice.
Yeah, I agree. Particularly the melody, I was a big fan of. Lyrics worked well. It was decent.
Yeah, I really like this one as well. I really like that verse vocal. It reminds me, here's an even weirder reference of a Jack Johnson song called, I think it's called Situations, where he kind of sings like very kind of low key. It reminds me of that, and I like that. It's very pleasing to the ears to hear that. These ones,
These things.
right here.
Next up, we have Baltimore. I liked when this finally gets to it, and although it's not a long song, I feel like it does take too long for that point to happen.
Completely agree. I say I like it when the riff comes in and it gets a bit more into it, but because the first bit is so boring, I don't think it does its job. Really, I don't think it's enough to keep it interesting, which is a shame because in isolation, I really enjoyed that part.
I like the song. I won't say that I fully agree with the points around that you're taking too long, but I don't disagree. Do what you want with that. But the last minute of this,
All right, Switzerland.
Comment
fucking
that,
hell.
mate.
I get what you're saying. But the last minute of the song is good. It's a good last minute of the song. And I appreciate the build up. And yeah, I think this is a pretty sound song. Sound.
So, moving on, Hem of the Fray. I just thought this was boring.
Yeah.
I've really not got anything more to add.
No, well, I'll quit while I'm ahead, and I'll add that for quit while you're ahead as well. The track, boring and Screaming in the Rain. So I'm going to check out for the next few songs because they're
Okay.
all boring.
Well, I actually really liked Hammer the Fray. So I don't know what it is. I just like the groove of it. And you know, a lot of that's to do with just this sound, and but I just think this is a bit more interesting than some of the other album tracks. Yeah, I think it's solid. And you know, just move on to Steph. Quit while you're ahead. I think the same here. I think his vocals. Is his name Lewis? Probably
know.
completely made that up. Let's call him Lewis for now. His vocals are great in this, and then working together. This kind of feels a bit more like a first album track. Still missing something a little bit, but I think this is a great tune, and I actually think this is where the album should have finished. They should have quit.
Yeah, I like Quit While You're Ahead. Dark, feels cool. Does seem to sort of fizzle out though. Doesn't have like a definitive ending to the track, but I agree. Probably would have been best to sort of leave it at that. Because unfortunately, we then end up with Screaming in the Rain, and all my comments were on this track were I am bored at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything. It didn't excite me much at all. Really Screaming in the Rain.
Okay. And then finally, we've got again the guitars and bass all work very well and pleasantly together. However, back to my first point that I made when talking about the song Tell Me, so not my first point, this doesn't seem that developed. And I
No.
just wish it was. I feel like this could have been one of the best songs, but it's just,
I agree.
they didn't do enough with it.
There's a nice riff in the chorus that happens when vocals stop that was really nice. I really, really like that part. But it's just not enough. I honestly don't think I've enjoyed a full song on this record, which is a
Damning.
shame.
Damn.
No, it's sorry, mate.
No need to apologise, Dad.
Ayo.
Double threat. Yeah, no, I don't really have much more to add to that. So let's round this one up, hey?
Please.
Hey, Cal,
I didn't really like the album 925. I liked Perfect. I now love Perfect, and I also love Separate and Cigarette Packet. 3 great Sorry songs. 3 more than what is on this record. 3 is the rating I'm giving.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, fucking hell.
I have not had a good
Christ.
time.
Jesus.
Holy shit. That is so low.
That did not go the way I expected it to.
I've
There's
not had
no
a good
need
time.
for that, Carl.
This
There's
no,
no
this
need
whole
for that.
this whole rating has annoyed me. This whole review of this album because it's reminded me of the album.
I'd be interested. I think maybe it might be worth you a bit of time going back to 925 because you might appreciate it more now.
I'm definitely not going after this.
No, but from what you
just so we
said,
know
that you,
as
okay.
well, this is my current lowest rated album of the year.
Wow.
Right. I don't think it deserves that. Considering some of the shit we've listened to.
Yeah.
I know from some of the stuff you said on the positive side about this album, 95 is a better album. So I just think you could possibly enjoy that. You know, a lot of good vocal mixes between the two of them, some very interesting stuff, and it's just fuller. It's a much fuller album. This album's just lacking some sort of like depth
Heart,
to it.
good songs.
And heart, yeah. So I would urge you, Cal, to listen to 95 again.
Liam, what's your rating of this album?
I'm going to give this. I've bumped down again during this review to a 5.
Yeah. I first off put a higher rating, but upon re-listening to it now, and very little did actually stand out upon second listen, I'm going to bump this down to a 5 as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly the same.
My original was obviously 6 because I thought the songs I liked bumped it up, but they really don't. So
Well, sorry.
sorry. So sorry if you didn't like our opinions. Well, that's on you
It's only
because we're
your
talking
fault.
about the stuff you've made. So
It's on you completely.
apologies.
I will continue to listen to Perfect, Separate, and Cigarette Packet though, so you'll
Yeah,
still
perfect.
And
get
95.
0.006 pence or whatever you get per stream.
That's been that review. Moving on. Next one.
And last one.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've not listened to it in full.
No.
So I'm not going to have a lot to say. I'm going to do a Liam, and I'm going to go through it as we go through it. So I'm not going to be the one that talks about these songs to begin with. So that's going to be a bit of a change up.
Could you introduce
This is-
them though, because you do it so
This is
beautifully.
fucked up.
Do I do it so well? Okay.
You do it so well, and then
Um,
I'll just come in straight away.
Lovely.
Can-
Well,
Mm.
Liam, I think because you've been the most excited about this one, I think like you should introduce the album.
Okay. The album we will be reviewing next is the new album from the Orielles, the Oreos, if you wish. And this album is called Tableau. Tableau.
Beautiful.
Tableau who?
To blow
To
or
blow my
not to
mind.
blow.
Uh,
Start off with the song Chromo 1.
There was some very nice sounds in this, but it was a transition song at the start, so it can only do so much.
Yeah, there's obviously there's quite a few of those in this album, of transition songs, and also a key part of this album, which you're not going to get, Yanni, is that most songs go into each other very
Mm.
well.
Very, very
So
well.
you're very. I would again urge you to listen to this album in full after the recording because it's well, you know, we found out. But yeah, Chromo 1's good setup to the second song, which is Chromo 2. And as a kind of single piece, if you were to put them together, I understand why they're split. I think that works very well. And Chromo 2, once we get into it, I hope I'm not rushing through it.
No,
but
mate.
If this makes sense.
Go ahead.
Is a great song. Great song. I very
Yeah.
much enjoy Chromo 2. Yanni's pulling faces. Is this shoegaze, Colin?
No.
Okay.
Shoegaze inspired, but I wouldn't say it was shoegaze. More like psychedelia kind
Shoe stare.
There must be a bit of shoegazing going on there when recording this album, so I reckon someone would argue it's shoegaze.
I did just say shoegaze inspired, mate. Yeah, so
Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
but
whoa.
You can't really
Calm down,
inspire-
boys. Calm down. Daddy's here. Okay, he's going to talk about these first two tracks now. Chromo 1, what's the fucking point? Chromo 2, this song passed me by completely. Uh, so
How
Fair enough.
come
yeah.
you've just listened to it in the last minute?
No, I've up and well, the first 5 tracks I've listened to before now.
Oh, okay then. All right.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't really
enough of
finish what
that.
I was saying about Chromo 2.
I
So,
haven't said anything about it either. So
yeah, I think the drums are great. Really keeps you going, and just that the constant kind of chords and the vocal effects that kind of keep the whole thing driving are really good. And then that guitar line, really good. I don't know, just really keeps me going. And I enjoy listening to it very much.
yeah, Liam's covered what I had to say there.
In that case, then moving on to the song "Airtight," which is what you could describe this review as.
Without a doubt.
Airtight.
Another seamless transition from Chromo 2 to this. But I do think it doesn't really need to be said anymore because they're all great. The vocal hook was very, very good. I enjoyed this track a fair bit.
Yeah, I very much enjoy the vocals on this. That vocal effect is very really interesting. You know, I might as well say here because I think it's fair for a lot of the songs. Is it's slightly repetitive. However, for me as a whole, this album is one that washes over you, and it's that's why I kind of feel like it's what I imagine shoegaze to be like. Because whenever I listen to shoegaze, it's not like that Always album. I feel when I've listened to shoegaze in the past, it's been something that has just kind of washed over like a wave, like Ocean, for example, stuff like that. This feels more akin to that than Always did. Again, with very limited listens to all 3 of the albums we're talking about here, but yeah, there's something about just the melodies that kind of just earworms and they're just eating away at your brain. And I really like that again in this track.
Are we still on "Airtight"?
Yeah, go on to the instrument
Meh.
whenever you're ready.
Meh. Moving on to the instrument. This was one of the first songs that grabbed me on the album. I like this one quite a bit.
Yeah, the riff's good in this one. It keeps the track kind of like pulsating and interesting. The call and response style comes in at whatever point it does was a lovely addition. I'm a sucker for some call and response vocals. It's a very good track.
I agree. I think this is a very good track. I like the different kind of parts to the song structurally, the different elements musically. Like the bits like when the chords come in, it changes for like a few seconds and then goes back to the main hook. Very well crafted, I think. It reminds me, and to be fair, quite a few songs on this album make me think of what Deep Tan might eventually get to. Like they're in the kind of the early stages of getting to something like this. Maybe not. Maybe they're definitely a bit more kind of raw. I think Deep Tan raw, and maybe they won't delve into that kind of creating a bit more of a soundscape. But this does, and this is very good. I think.
Yeah, man. Moving on, the improvisation 001. This is one of the first tracks of a couple on this album, which go on quite a while. This one was boring.
Yeah, if it is completely improvised, then that's pretty cool. If it has previously been improvised and had the opportunity to be cut down and hasn't been cut down, that is sad because it is a lot of nothing.
Regardless, either way, I like this track. It sounds like it's improvised, just because it sounds a bit more roomy and stuff. It doesn't necessarily sound like it's fully like been worked on. If that makes sense. But I like this and I like the sound. And again, there's just little bits and bobs that come in, little twinkles and stuff that just sound very pleasing to the ear. Again, to make it clear, I see this album very much as a washover album, and I like it for that.
A fucking nightmare to review, though, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Moving on, next track is Television. Cool guitars and vocal melody in this, and the switch up towards the end that it does is very nice.
Yep, I agree. There's some parts that I really liked, but then there was also quite a fair bit of it that I found quite forgettable. I did really like the strings in this. So
Yeah, I really like this one. I think this was actually the one that made me think of Deep. Did you finish speaking then?
yes.
I missed the last
10
I
hours
was
ago.
just- Shut up. As Yanni froze, he looks at me and I don't know what he's trying to say with his eyes. Again, this
Just
was
trying
the
to
one that made
impress
me
you.
think of Deep Town in the first place. But I think they did this really well. I like the melodies. I like the kind of slowed down part of like the middle of the song, whatever part of the song that is. Again, I think this is just a very good song. I think it's hard to review, isn't it? But a lot of cool stuff in this song.
Yep. Moving on. Someday later. Tell us all about it, Carl.
Meh. That's what I
Yep.
thought. So good. Thank you.
Yeah, there isn't really anything to say about this song. Yeah, I don't remember what I kind of thought of this listening to it in full, to be honest. But like as an individual track, there's not really anything to say about it, is there?
No, I said the same thing. Meh. So moving on. Darkened Corners. I have got some here, so I'll just say it now. Immediately love the instrumentation that you hit with upon first delving into this track, and the strings at the end were very nice.
I agree. It's just Damon Albarn, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, it does
So
sound
it's
like Damon Albarn.
Fucking well sounds like him. If it's not,
Oh, didn't
then
realise.
we have a little voice doppelganger in the midst.
I very much enjoy his vocals.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the points that stood out. But now you've
Whoever
said
it
it
is,
does sound like Damon Albarn. Yeah.
whoever it is, if it ain't Damon, well, I think it is. He shines on this track, and it works extremely well. Probably my favorite song in quite a while on this record. I say quite a while because some of them are unnecessarily long.
This is the song that the first time I listened to it, I stopped at this point, just 'cause I went out or something. But I really liked this song the first time around, and listened to it again. I think it's great. I think the strings and stuff, yeah, are very. This one's very kind of like it feels very gentle, and very well considered. And yeah, the male vocals, whereas Damon Albarn are not, work very very well. I wish there was more of that. Not to discredit, to put down the main vocals, but it's just a nice touch.
I agree. Yanni, are you listening to the track?
I've already spoken about it.
No, I know. I was gonna see if you could confirm or deny whether or not it's Damon Albarn.
It sounds like him, but I don't know if it is. There's something about it that makes me feel like it isn't.
I also feel like if they had got Damon Albarn on it, it would say featuring Damon Albarn.
I think the bass player, I'm sure. I was looking earlier at their kind of Wikipedia, and their bass player, I think his name's Henry. It said
Let's call him Louis.
His name is definitely Henry. It says that he does vocals, and I thought, oh, I don't know where that is, so maybe that's him.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe Henry, Louis, whatever your name is.
Damon.
Damon. You sound great.
Yeah, it's good voice.
Yeah, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Next track. What's the pronunciation of this, boys?
Enfleur.
Remembered.
Enfleur, remembered. Yeah.
Understated. This one, maybe too much.
Okay. The vocals were highlighting this, which is the first time really that I've pinpointed the vocals as the main standout. Previously, they've sounded nice, but this was the main thing I took from this track.
Yeah, the vocals are great. I really like the vocal effects on this. It reminds me very much of Callum. You know, this on Drag Race. The like when someone gets told to sashay away and the music goes ba 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 ba. Do you know what I'm talking about? Ba 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 ba.
I got to hand it to RuPaul for seemingly looking like they're about to cry every time when they, in reality, definitely could not give a shit.
Yeah, brutal. No heart whatsoever. Fracking queen. Bitch. But yeah, the vocals remind me of that, and that with it's a solid bass line in the song, I think, but also very understated, which is a nice mixing choice. And then there's that kind of like a simple, something it's just doing doom 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 doom, very kind of very simple melody, but that all mixed together. I think sounds great.
Great.
Sweet. Moving on, Beams. This was a single, if I remember correctly, wasn't
You remember
it?
correctly, Yanni.
It was.
I remembered it because I very much liked it at the time we reviewed it, and I still very much like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably top 2 of the tracks on this record.
I feel like you didn't enjoy this when we reviewed it first.
Yeah.
Maybe I
think you
didn't,
did.
but I like it now.
You've grown up
Um,
sometime.
Maybe. I love it when it gets into it. I love it when it gets weird. It's just a very good track. And I don't know why I wouldn't have liked it in the first place. Maybe I was in a bad mood. But I like it now, and that's all that matters.
Usually are. I very
Foul.
much enjoyed this first time listening to it, and I think it's still my favourite song on the album. I think it's a stunning song. Stunning is the word I'm going to use. Absolutely love it. I think it does so much in its almost 8 minutes, and like it moves over so many phases and stuff, and all of it's interesting. I love it.
He loves it.
He really loves it. To offer to erase, not to ease, that's what it's auto corrected it to on my notes for some reason. To offer to erase is the name of the track. What's the point in this? It just builds up with no release.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even transition into the next one.
Fair enough. It was a nice transition from Beams, though, I think.
Yeah.
But I do kind of agree with what you mean.
Yeah, I think the fact it doesn't transition into the next song is a shame.
It's not a shame.
I actually quite like this as a interlude. I think it's a nice palate cleanser, just because it's kind of very simple, but very kind of like takes you out of it for a second. But yeah, it is a shame it doesn't go into the room.
Well, the next track, if you've not guessed, is called The Room. I've put, yeah, man. I like this one.
Yeah, man. This is the best track on the record, bar none, for me. I think this is absolutely unreal. I love everything about it. I think it was last week we covered it. If not, it was the week before. The drums are fantastic. And the synth in the chorus. A big fat one of them. Big
Nice.
fat double one of them. That was a chef's
Um,
kiss for the audio listeners.
It was actually, I
The
think,
audio listener.
2 or 3 weeks ago we covered it.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah, I love this song.
Not
I
on
think
this
the song's-
recording.
Definitely not. The song's fantastic. It's a very close second with Beams for me. I think this is the
Very.
more easily listenable one, so I'd probably listen to this one more. But I just think Beams is a kind of, as a art piece, is incredible. So, but yeah, The Room is wonderful as well. Great, the way it speeds up and slows down, it just gets me, baby.
Ooh.
By Its Light is the name of the next track. I've put, this is beautiful.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I
Liam
agree too.
Is frozen.
I agree too. I think it's beautiful. Again, another nice little palette cleanser. Maybe this should have been between Beams and The Room, and then To Offer to Erase should have been after The Room. I like the concept of it being called To Offer to Erase, being like it kind of like wipes the slate. But yeah, I just think that was maybe in the wrong space.
Good point. Well made, Liam. Well done.
Thanks so much.
Next up, we have Transmission, which is the last of the longer tracks on this album. I got Warpaint vibes from this, and it does a lot in the runtime. And yeah, this is my second favorite long song on the album.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing I disliked in this track, but because it's so long, and we all know my attention deficit disorder when it comes to
Cal
albums,
hates length.
I do hate length. I'm a girth man. I'm a substance man. That makes it sound like I do drugs. I did not mean that. I listen to Tame Impala.
He does.
Don't do drugs. It was good, but I was just checking out, and I didn't really give the next 2 tracks enough attention either, to be honest.
You son of a bitch.
I'm so sorry.
How rude.
I'm so hot.
If I talk
Please
about
hurry up.
You
No.
should get some blinds. Yeah, I love Transmission as well. I think it's great. I think it's a very just beautiful, just pretty song. Sounds
Yeah,
great.
you know.
I look quite
You know.
pretty.
Second to last, Drawn and Defined. This is another pretty song, and the synths in this, the main sort of synth that's plucking away in the background, I think it's perfect for the track. The perfect sound choice that was made there.
Yeah. It was pretty sounding, but I can't. I'm not qualified to review it when I can't remember the song.
Yeah, I think it's very pretty sounding. I could do without it though. I think. I'm not realising that I don't
finally-
remember hearing this last song.
Well,
What is
I
it with
wish
you
I
and the
could
last
forget
tracks
this
of
last song.
albums?
I don't
mm.
know. I'm like, I do not remember a spoken word track.
Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it? Stones is the name of the last one. As mentioned when we talked about what was it, and they had the spoken word outro.
English
Was
teacher.
it last week? No, I don't mean that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
something last week. Oh yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
yeah, on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really like that ever whenever it's done, and this is no exception.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's done well, but it's just neither here nor there, is it?
It doesn't
It's
feel
not-
like it sorry, Liam, because there's no other spoken word aspect to this album. When you're hit with that, it's very jarring,
Mhm.
and so I don't feel like it does a good job of encapsulating the entire record like you'd want a great closer to have.
Yeah, fair
Done.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very. It feels like a cop out to me. I think this album should have finished on Transmission, and then I think this something like this could work in the middle of an album before something like Beams. So it's like spoken word, and then it goes into this like huge song. Do you know what I mean? I think that kind of works well. But at the end of an album, it feels like a cop out. And like I think it's done well for what it is. I don't really hate it, but if I was listening to the album, I would have turned off by now because I would have got up to lift the needle off the record as soon as Stone started, sort of thing, because it doesn't add anything more to the album.
No. And now we must review. That's what we do. You're probably used to it now if you've stuck around.
Bloody hope so.
Stick around.
Sticked around. And more better. So, Cal, what's your rating of this album?
What I really liked, but there was just a lot of stuff I didn't need. So a harsh 6. Very harsh.
That's very
I
hard.
don't think that's harsh. Liam, what's your rating?
What I I really liked, and what I loved, I really loved. And there was a little bit that was too much and not needed for me. And I'm going to go, I don't feel like overdone. 8.
Wow.
6 seems very harsh for the comments you
Well,
said, Colin, but
Our average, yeah, I'm happy with that because our average is now 7, which Yanni is going to shit on, I'm sure.
turn to 2.
No, I'm going to give this a 6, actually.
Very good.
So yeah, that's kind of your 6 does seem harsh.
Well, why
Based on
does
your
it?
comments.
That
I think he's only had one different opinion, and that was Chromo 2 or something.
I
think
liked-
the rest of
yeah.
it, we've been pretty similar in our thoughts.
I liked Chromo 2. I liked Airtight. The instrument was good, and then The Room, and there's 16 tracks. So I like a quarter of it. Like actually really like. I like Beams as well. But
I like beans.
As you may be accustomed to if you've seen the last time we did just album spotlights when we covered 4 albums, we don't do averages at this point. But if you want to work it out, feel absolutely free to. Don't forget to work out the mode, median, mean, and then range.
But I guess if you want to
Um,
know kind of the ranking based on this episode, I suppose it would be Orielles. Always. Sorry. There's some
No need to apologise, mate.
facts for you.
So
Some
I hope
stats.
you've enjoyed this review of albums.
did you boys?
It was all right.
I
I'm
enjoyed
glad
the
it's
review.
finished.
I didn't necessarily enjoy the albums.
Well, no, you had a bad time with one of them, didn't you? But
Honestly,
next
sorry,
week's
don't
album
bother.
spotlight, do we gonna just announce that now since we definitively know what they're going to be? Or
Go ahead.
or
yeah,
not?
I think we should. Yeah.
We've got all 4, yeah.
Oh
four of
yeah,
these.
it's another
Lock it in,
bulky one.
baby. the big boy.
Probably going to regret this. We've got the 1975, The Big Moon, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Skull Crusher.
That's a good
Now,
week on paper.
On
On
paper,
paper.
should be good. When it comes to it,
We'll see.
well, we'll see, won't we? We'll see. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, and you're on YouTube right now, then like the video, subscribe if you've not already, comment what you thought, and ding a bell if I've not mentioned that. And obviously go to our links in the description to find out where we are elsewhere in the socials. If you're just listening to this, then get over to YouTube, type on Falls in the Hill podcast, and do the things I've just said to do if you're on YouTube. Instagram and Facebook at Falls in the Hill Pod, Twitter at Falls in the No. Sorry. Instagram and Facebook is at Falls in the Hill Podcast. Twitter is at Falls in the Hill Pod.
Correct.
Don't get it twisted. God damn. Thank you for sticking with us if you have. And apologies if you've not. But if you're not listening, then
Fuck it.
you won't know, will you?
And on that note, goodbye for another week. See you next week for a big bumper episode. Get your knickers ready, boys. You'll need them.
Always at the ready, mate.
I'm wearing mine already.